I try to say goodbye and I choke. Try to walk away and I stumble. Though I try to hide it, it's clear. My world crumbles when you are not near. Welcome to Pandora's box again. Paraceratherium, the ancient rhino, dun dun dun, potentially the largest land mammal that ever lived, dun dun dun, dun dun. His name means near the hornless beast. He was a giant rhino, but he didn't have a horn, but he had a long neck, but not as long as a giraffe's. Yeah, I thought I'd talk a little bit about Paraceratherium.
Paraceratherium, what a name.
Yeah, briefly talked about him long ago on the pod. Long ago, before Bullwinkle was even a thing.
Oh, man, and I can't remember that one. I can't remember that far back.
Yeah, it would have been like a year ago, I bet, and this was before Bullwinkle even materialised in this realm.
So it was before we even recorded it and put it out.
Yeah, this was before we had a YouTube or anything like that. So this is just lost in the annals of time. But before we get into that, just want to quickly welcome you all again to Pandora's Box. Thanks for being here with us this evening. I'm your host as always, On the left of me we have the Golden Nugget.
I love how that's developed. I remember being the man with the golden to the golden
now
nuggets.
You are the golden
golden nuggets.
Now you are the golden
24 carat baby.
Here he is, 24 carat. That's what
24 carat nugget.
That's
baby.
what his friends call him, 24 carat. But he is officially the golden nugget.
That's me.
So we've got 24 carat, and over here to the right of me we have Braun Strowman.
What's up? I'm Braun Strowman.
Braun Strowman's been laying off the peds, and he's gone back down to more of like a regular human size.
This is how he tried to grow his hair when he tried to grow it long.
Yeah, and then he just failed and went bald.
Yeah.
So is that headband laced with acid? Jimi Hendrix star?
We'll see in about 20 minutes.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. So if this show,
if the walls start melting, and you see my eyes like this,
and he starts going cray, like talking about loads of cray stuff, even for Drew, then we know.
Speaking of cray stuff, I reckon Drew's got a story later on that you could tell, maybe that he was telling me.
Oh yeah,
you should tell. Cray story.
It did sound pretty cray.
Oh, I want to hear it already.
Oh,
I want to. Well, I guess I should talk about the Paraceratherium first. Although I do, I sort of do just want to, divert into this now. But we'll talk about what is potentially the largest ever land mammal first. The Paraceratherium. Do you want to get up a picture of a Paraceratherium for everyone that's watching on YouTube?
How am I spelling that, man?
So it's P-A-R-A-C-E.
Got it up.
Paraceratherium. Just so everybody that's watching on the tubes
Look at
can
that.
watch. So if you are just listening on the radio or on Spotify,
it looks like it's got a flappy mouth.
Flap mouth.
Like flap mouth.
It reminds me of something.
Yeah, like
it's a flap mouth.
Flap mouth horse. It's like a horse dinosaur.
It's like a horse.
Like I've seen that in Star Wars.
It's not. It's like a cross between
horse with a real long neck.
It's like a cross between like a horse, a giraffe, and a rhino. But it is technically a member of the rhino species. It's an ancestor of the modern day rhino.
Yeah, you can see where a horn would just grow out of that like that.
And also, if you get any pictures up of sort of how they imagine that the skin would look, it's pretty much like a modern day rhino. It's just like thick, almost like scaly grey skin.
Flappy rhino skin.
Man. Old Flappy McFlapper.
I feel like I've seen these in Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah. What? I
look at it compared to an elephant.
I do feel like it's like a.
That would
there's
massive.
A character a bit like it. I can't think. Oh no, are you just thinking of 80s actually?
Maybe they're similar frames.
Do you know what I mean? It's a similar frame to an 8080, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because as soon as you said about the Star Wars thing, I was like, actually, yeah, I swear that does ring a bell. But now I'm thinking about it in my head. I'm like, no, I think it's just an 8080. They're big and grey and have the same sort of like body shape. But yeah, Paraceratheriums are potentially the largest ever land mammal. So they are they were 4 times larger than a modern African bull elephant.
Yeah, that's crazy.
We got up a photo now comparing them.
Yeah, and obviously an African bull elephant is the largest land mammal today. A giraffe is...
You got the little man in the corner as well.
So you can appreciate the full ginormity of the Paraceratherium. So, the Paraceratherium lived from the early to late Oligocene epoch. So that's sort of 34 to 23 million years ago. So they evolved about 30 million years after the extinction of the dinosaurs, and are considered back in the heyday of megafauna. So this would have been around before. We've talked about the Daeodon, or the Hell Pig, or the Terminator Pig as it's known. That was the Miocene. So this is before the Daeodon, and this is before also the giant Teratorn, which was the largest ever bird, which was like a bird the size of a small plane. So this was before those days. But yeah, the first fossils were discovered in modern day Pakistan, but remains have been found across Eurasia, between China and the Balkans. As I said, it is technically a type of rhinoceros, and they think that would have weighed about 21 tons. Do you remember we were talking a bit about rhinos last week, weren't we? Like modern rhinos, white rhinos. And I was saying that I think I'm pretty sure modern rhinos weigh about 3 tons.
Whoa.
So think 21 tons for Paraceratherium.
Big rhino.
That is a big old daddy
beast
rhino. Yeah, they think that its head would have reached about 23 feet into the air, and that they fed by grazing treetops. They think one of the reasons why they might have gone extinct is because when elephants sort of started to evolve and came into the same lands as Paraceratherium, what sort of all these big mammoths and elephant ancestors did often was like knock over tree like canopies and knock over trees and stuff, and then they would like feast off the berries and the leaves and stuff on the ground. And that maybe the elephants were just so like destructive at doing this that it would have almost like wiped out the food source, and Paraceratherium would have almost like had a hard time.
That's crazy, isn't it? I mean, thought thered be so many trees, like
yeah. I mean, obviously, with a lot of these things, it's just conjecture. A lot of historians, paleontologists and stuff, like they are using that. It's like educated guesses, but it does seem to be some link between when the elephant fossils start showing up. There seem to be less Paraceratherium fossils suddenly in the record, so that indicates that they've probably maybe had some impact on it. It's like competition, isn't it?
Yeah, competitive struggle in the food chain, baby.
Exactly. It's a bit like we've talked before on Pandora's Box about terror birds, haven't we? Do you remember that? Those like 9 foot tall, like evil birds that were like very similar to almost like almost like very similar to like velociraptors and Deinonychus and Utahraptors and stuff like that, but like evolved once the dinosaurs had gone extinct. And they were very similar to those raptor-like dinosaurs, but was almost like a cross between like a raptor-type dinosaur and like a modern-day ostrich.
Massive beak, like real sketchy beaks, and they apparently peck the heck out of you.
And they were almost like the apex predators for a while in certain parts of the world after the dinosaurs went extinct. But when things like the big cats started to evolve, it was almost just like the sheer competition. The big cats were like the new big things on the block. And it's almost like funny in a way, isn't it? Because if you think about the modern day relationship between cats and birds, like
cats chase those birds.
It seems like cats have always almost been like the bane of birds.
The natural enemy.
Yeah, even when they were like massive terror birds, it's like all these like giant cats started to evolve, all these like saber-toothed cats, like Smilodon and that, and they would have just like outcompeted and maybe even killed these terror birds. And it just seems like it's a bit of a similar situation between these ancestors of elephants.
Just little mini versions.
Yeah.
Oh no, sorry.
Like these with these ancestors of the elephants and the ancestors of the rhino. Seems like it's a similar situation. But yeah, they lived in dry scrublands and savannas, but moved between sparse woodland areas, eating foliage from trees. As I said,
they must have had to eat a lot of foliage to keep up the energy. So that makes more sense when you say about the elephants knocking the trees over. Like, Yeah, because I can imagine they would have to eat a hell of a lot of.
Tree to them is like one little bit of broccoli.
Yeah, just the top of a broccoli.
Yeah.
Well, even with like large, obviously nowhere near as large as these sort of beasts, but even with like what you would think of as like large, common modern day animals like cows,
they have to eat a lot of grass.
They pretty much spend their entire lives eating.
Yeah.
It's like if they're not sleeping,
they need to.
They're eating. They're just wandering around grazing. It's like they never really stop eating.
Yeah,
they might look up every now and again, look around, and then I'll get back to eating.
Haven't
again.
cows got like
4 stomachs?
4 stomachs. That's it. Yeah, that's
they
crazy.
They need it just to actually like get nutrition out of grass. Because grass is like so low in nutrients. That it literally like processes
break it down so much that like get every last little bit.
They need it because so like break it down into like the most nutrient form possible. But yeah, so cool to imagine like actually seeing one of these Paraceratheriums in real life.
Could you imagine how much life would be different if we were still in the era of all this megafauna?
Oh yeah.
Like imagine how crazy. I feel like it'd almost be quite interesting. Like we could be sat here now and then you just see like some huge beast coming around the corner and you're like, man.
I'd love to see it. I'd love to see what the Earth looked like at that time. Were like the trees and stuff bigger as well, or was it were they about the similar size and then there was just bigger animals?
I'm not sure. I think it would have probably been, in terms of the trees, I think it would have been pretty similar to today. Yeah, because I know I've heard of like some like fossilized trees that like rival the biggest trees today, but I've never heard of like a fossilized tree found
that's like
but then trees now
bigger.
Are still pretty massive.
Yeah,
those Californian, is it redwoods?
Yeah, redwoods, and there's ones by Dunster as well, quite close to where we live. Yeah, and it's like it was officially the largest tree in England.
What's it called? In our county of Somerset, England, we are home to the largest tree in England. It's got a name. What's it called again? I was going to say the General Sherman, but that's the largest tree in the world. That's in California, because the reason I know that is because at the site near Dunster, where the tree is, it has a size. It has like a little like
comparison.
Yes, of like it compared of like the one that the largest tree in England compared to the largest tree in the world, which is in California, and that's called the General Sherman. And that's a Californian redwood, and it's like, and it makes like the largest tree in England look like a twig. Yeah. Can you find out the name of it, man?
I'm seeing loads of different answers here.
Ring off a couple.
Apparently, it's in Nutcombe Bottom.
That's right, Nutcombe Bottom.
Nutcombe Bottom.
Oh no. Yeah, it might be. Might be. Go on, tell us what it is.
But it doesn't give me a name. It just says that's
Type
where it
in
is.
largest tree in England, Somerset, and let's have a gander.
Or Dunster.
Yeah, because it's near Dunster. You know what? I know it is near a funny named place because the immature part of my brain, every single time that I drive past
Nutcombe Bottom.
Yeah, I'm like
Bottom.
Yeah, it is in Nutcombe Bottom. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't find a name for it.
It has got a name.
It's been growing
Dunster
since
Douglas.
That's the type of tree. That's the type of tree.
Oh, General Sherman.
No, that's the largest tree.
That's
in the
what
world.
it's got underneath it.
Oh, really?
The Dunster Douglas is the tallest tree in England. Oh no, yeah, and the General Sherman is in USA. So the Dunster Douglas is the biggest in England. Maybe they just don't.
Oh, maybe that is just the name, the Dunster Douglas.
Yeah.
I thought that was like the type of tree it was.
Has a trunk estimated to weigh 50 tons.
That must be the name, yeah, because obviously Dunster.
Yeah.
So it's like, that is obviously its name. The Dunster Douglas, yeah.
But diameter of 1.74 meters, 50 tons, trunk.
It's a big old tree.
Yeah.
It's like if you stand at the bottom of it and you look up, you can't even like see the top of it.
Yeah.
You can just like see tree and then eventually sky. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
it'd be so much harder for us to live in that era, wouldn't it? You could just be chilling in your house and someone could come and step through your house.
I tell you what though, what's quite cool to think of is like, as I said, the Paraceratherium might be the largest ever mammal. The largest ever land mammal, sorry. But the contender for it, we were alive during that reign. During the Pleistocene, which is the Pleistocene was like during our evolution. So I said like modern day Homo sapiens evolved about 200,000 years ago, and the Pleistocene has been during that era. I think the Pleistocene ended about 11,000 years ago. But the other animal, which is like the next contender for also being the largest ever land mammal, was an ancestor of the modern day elephant, and it was called Paleoloxodon namadicus. And it was if as I said, I think we've only got like a thigh bone of it at the moment.
Really?
But the thigh bone is like bigger than any other. It's bigger than any type of woolly mammoth or mastodon. Even like the giant, which are like bigger. All those things I just mentioned are like bigger than modern day elephants. But it's like way bigger. So they think that might have been, that might have been even bigger than Paraceratherium.
Wow. That's cool.
So I don't know if try and get up like a picture of like the size comparison.
I've got one.
Have you?
On the screen.
So as I said, if you are just listening on the radio or Spotify, we do have a YouTube. So please go on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Pandora's Box Podcast, and then you can watch us on there as well as listen to us, and then you can take in all these pictures as we're getting up talking about different subjects.
It's like reading a picture book.
Yeah, yeah. As we're talking about things.
Miss out.
Young Bullwinkle over here, 24 carat, the golden nugget. He will be getting up pictures of things that we're talking about, and it just makes it, it's more informative.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. If you can see for yourself a size comparison or an educated guess of a size comparison,
there's a thigh bone we've got. Look.
Oh yeah. It's a big old thigh bone. But yeah, I mean, both of them would have just been colossal. I mean, I said both Paraceratherium and this giant elephant were like bigger than some dinosaurs. We're bigger than a lot of dinosaurs. Obviously not as big as the largest sauropods, like Anatotitan and Argentinosaurus, which were like some of the largest ever sauropod dinosaurs.
Argentinosaurus. Was it found in Argentina?
Yeah. A lot of these names are almost like just self-explanatory. Do you know what I mean? It's just quite cool. Well, I suppose the only problem is that it's like you have to have a degree of knowledge of like Latin a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Like Tyrannosaurus Rex means tyrant lizard king.
That's
cool.
I like that. Tyrant lizard king.
Yeah, like Rex just means means king in Latin. So like in a lot of like Anglo-Saxon scriptures and stuff like that, you'll see like it'll be like Alfred. Say you're talking about like there's an old scripture about Alfred the Great. It'll be like Alfred Rex. It just means Alfred King.
Cool.
Like Alfred King.
Yeah.
So like Rex means king. Tyranno. Tyrant, Saurus just means lizard, so dinosaurs, like giant lizards.
I always think all the different times as well that you're talking about, they've all got such cool names.
Yeah,
like the what was it, Pliocene and the
Pleistocene
and the Younger Dryas.
There is a Pliocene, Pleistocene, Miocene.
It's so cool.
One of the things I really want to like learn off by heart, which I haven't yet. But I really want to be able to do is just like off my own back without researching it, be able to like say every single period from like the dawn of human, of like the dawn of like the Earth, not of human, because obviously that would only be a tiny part of it. So it's like from like a recorded Earth.
I'd be like medieval times, the Iron Age.
Well, a lot of people wouldn't even know that though. Do you know what I mean? But I've always thought like that would be like a cool, just like a little thing in my what do they call it?
In your vocab, but not your vocab.
What's it called? What's it called? Like when you've got like a list of things you want to do in your life.
Bucket list.
But that's on my bucket list. To know it all, like to be able to say like, oh, so it went from like the Triassic to the Jurassic to the Cretaceous to the such and such. Right through to modern day. I'd love to be able to do that. I'd love to be able to do that. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I probably have to like print out like a little graph of it.
Because we should put it up on the wall. That'd be cool.
We seriously should.
Like a poster of it.
Yeah, because it would be very simple just to print it out, and then if we put it on the wall, and then if we like look at it all the time, then hopefully it will start sinking in.
Yeah.
Subconsciously. I remember there was like a lad in my Zoussoir the Gold's primary school, and his parents, very simply but very cleverly, above his cot when he was a baby. And right through to when he started primary school, just put a poster of the alphabet, and then like it was like times tables and addition and subtraction and division, all of that. And like by the time the lad started school, just through the fact that he would just stare at it before he went to sleep every night, he like was like the most advanced in our class. Like he knew, even when we were like 4 or 5 years old when we started school, he knew his like alphabet. He knew like, as I said, he knew like up to his 12 times tables. When he was like 5, and it was just because his parents had like plastered all this stuff on his ceiling, so that every single night, it'd be the last thing you'd look at, and then it's.
I'm just wondering if I would have done it when I was a kid, or if I'd have just ignored it still.
I don't know. I reckon you would because it's like subconscious, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
I like the idea of a little baby being in a cot, and most babies have like the little like floating
Stars
things,
and
stars and animals, and this kid was just staring at Pythagoras theorem.
Yeah.
I do reckon I'm going to try and do a couple of things like that with Evie though.
Yeah, man.
I wouldn't ever do it to the point where I thought I was like ruining her fun, because I think fun's always like the most important thing. You got to like enjoy your life.
Learning can be fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but definitely it's like I've been watching all the Jurassic Park movies with her recently and that, and she's suddenly like gotten well into dinosaurs, but she's like learning. Like she's 2 and she knows, and she can say Tyrannosaurus Rex, and she knows what Tyrannosaurus Rex is. And I can't remember if it was Stegosaurus or Triceratops, but I heard that she said that the other day. I haven't heard her say it yet, but I've got it on good authority.
Yeah.
And she said it, and I thought that's like quite cool for a 2-year-old. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure in her head she can like picture what it is when she's saying it. But it's just obviously because I've always been so into dinosaurs. When we're watching the movies, I'm like, oh, that's a that, and that's a that, and that's a that. And I'm trying to sort of get it to sink in. And I can tell she finds it amazing, so obviously I'm trying to encourage it. It's hilarious as well, actually. Like, up until about like a week ago, all of her like favourite toys that she would like insist on going to sleep with every night was like, she had a baby wolf, mummy wolf, and daddy wolf. And those were like her like favourite toys that she would literally like, she would have to take to playgroup, take to bed every night. And then since we've watched like the first 3 Jurassic Park movies, it's like she's had like these 4 stuffed dinosaurs toys since I can remember, but she's never really paid them much attention. And then it's like we got them out of her little chest, like her little toy box, and now she just loves them, and she just literally just almost like dropped the wolves and she's like moved on to the dinos. But it's really funny.
I remember when we came round the other night. Remember she had the dinos.
Yeah. But it's really funny. It's like there always has to be like a family. She's always like, this one's mummy dinosaur, and this one's baby dinosaur, and this one's daddy dinosaur.
That's so cute how like kids do that. It's almost like representing their family situation or something of like mummy, daddy, baby.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
that's the first thing they learn.
Yeah,
is they know that they're your child, and they know their mum and their dad. That's like the most basic thing. Do you know what I mean? And then just
like pictures, you always see like kids. They'll draw like mummy, daddy, and
that's
them,
their world.
You know? Yeah, it is.
That's their entire world. That's like their universe, even. So I mean, that's like the basis of the whole foundation of their universe. It was funny though because on Sunday we went and filmed a project which by now actually will be up on YouTube as well as on our Instagram, Pandora's Box podcast on or it might just be Pandora's Box actually.
Podcast.
Is it Pandora's Box podcast on Instagram?
Yeah.
Pandora's Box podcast on Instagram. Please go give us a follow. We've got lots of clips on that, just like little short clips and pictures of us doing various things. And as I said, this little project that we went to film on Sunday. And then we came back to mine afterwards, didn't we? We ate like a load of lamb and chips.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
We had this like slow roast lamb and chips just like covered in gravy, didn't we? Oh, it was delish, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So hearty.
So good, man.
So hearty.
I need some.
Oh, man, I want some right now.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and then like Evie came home, didn't she, from a little barbecue she'd be having with some of her family members. And yeah, she was like showing us the little dinosaurs and that. And it was funny, wasn't it? Because she'd met you before in here, hadn't she?
Yes.
But it was like hilarious. Yeah. It was hilarious that bit where she was just like, I was like carrying and she was just like, Bullwinkle looks good.
yeah, that was so
You're
funny.
like, you know how like little girls like love like people like Justin Bieber and that. You're like her Justin Bieber, man.
Justin Bieber.
The baby-faced assassin.
Exactly, man. The baby-faced assassin.
It was funny yesterday as well because I picked her up from her childminders yesterday at 4 p.m. And on the way back in the car she was saying, yesterday saw Uncle Drew and Bullwinkle. And I was like, yeah, we did, didn't we? And then she just went, I like Bullwinkle. That's really funny, man.
Wholesome. Wholesome stuff.
It's something about like young lads though, and like, do you know what I mean? It's like Emily's youngest sister is her she's got a boyfriend called Sam, and he's like only like a couple of years younger than you. And she like really likes him as well. So, I mean, I think it's like real funny. Do you know what I mean? It's just like almost like that young lad thing.
I wonder where that comes from.
Just like almost like little, it's just like funny little schoolgirl crushes or something, isn't it? So I mean, I think that obviously like girls when they're like young and that, I think, you know, they don't like anything. No offense, I was gonna say they don't like anything too masculine.
Too bearded.
Yeah, you know what I mean though. Like you haven't got like this massive.
I reckon
beard
they would see like beards and stuff as like an older person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like old man.
But if you think about it, like, say even when you're like in secondary school, if you think back to being in secondary school, like, say when you were like in year 8 or year 9, like girls and that, they're not into guys like Hugh Jackman and you know, like, you think of like masculine men, like he's like big and jacked.
It's like Justin Timberlake.
Yes,
and
who pretty much looks exactly like Bullwinkle.
There you go. And Justin Bieber
coming next week.
It must be something about Justin.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Just call yourself Justin. Your beard will fall off.
Yeah,
and,
and schoolgirls will love you.
Yeah.
But it's true though, isn't it? Like not many, as I said, like secondary school girls like super masculine guys. They like pretty guys.
Yeah,
like pretty younger guys.
Yeah,
you know, like pretty young men, like old 24 carat over here. You know.
And then you get to our age and you go around your girlfriend's nan's house or something, and they're like, oh, hello.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure like young women find me scary.
Yeah,
but like
but old women,
but like 50-year-old women love me.
Yeah.
They think I'm like the best.
Oh, if I was a few years younger.
Yeah, they think I'm like the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always remember. There was a girl in our school that we were very close with called Georgie Linden, wasn't there? And she used to work at this place in Bridgewater called Cherries, which was just like a breakfast sort of place.
Yeah,
you could get
cafe,
smoothies and that as well. And like she had this boss who was probably like at the time. This is when we were like, you know, a lot younger than we are now. But you know, I've always been like bearded and tall and obviously in that and been, you know, like just been quite like a meaty boy. And apparently, I remember Georgie always telling me that her boss said that she thought I was like the best looking guy in our town, which obviously I took as like a real like compliment. But I just thought it was really funny because she was probably about 60 at the time.
Yeah,
and it was always just like funny. Like a lot of women are sort of like that age range will think that. Do you know what I mean? But like I think, as I said, like if you had say like an 18-year-old girl, I think you'd be more likely to find one of you two more attractive than me. They'd probably just think I was like this just mass of hair and meat. Do you know what I mean? Like a bit too much for him. I've left you two speechless for that one.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
a massive hair and meat.
Yeah.
That's just like.
And on that note, let's listen to this track, "Open Secrets" by Rush. Enjoy, everyone. It's hard to know what's more 80s, that or on a Grony Cocktail jingle with the video that we shot the other day.
That's right.
Yeah, we were just talking a little bit about how I think 24 Carat over here, young Bullwinkle, looks a little bit like Justin Timberlake.
Not so sure, man.
And then we went on to like saying about how actually we think like Justin Timberlake's pretty cool guy.
Pretty cool man. He's got some tunes. We should see if there's any in the system. Or a next hour or something.
Yeah, we'll have to like maybe we'll play some Justin Timberlake. And I said it's not the usual stuff I would play, but you know, to be fair, I remember like when I was probably like your age, Bullwinkle. I remember when I'd go to the gym, it was like often like on the radio. And I'd always think like, yeah, that's pretty good.
For mainstream radio stuff and that. Yeah, it's banging, like the melodies and everything.
Compared to most
some of the instrumentation for the beats. Yeah, it was always really cool. Like I remember like acoustic, like bam 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 bum bum bum, you know that?
Oh, like, isn't there like some like acoustic guitar?
Yeah, it was like acoustic guitar, like all like flamenco-y and that. I was like, that's pretty cool.
Like compared to most stuff that you would typically consider of that genre. Like I thought that was like my favourite.
Yeah,
of that sort of like
R&B poppy stuff.
That sort of like 2008 pop scene.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? But anyway, I am intrigued to hear of this story.
Story
that blew young Bullwinkle's brain.
It was a bit crazy.
And it changed my life. The story.
Really?
Yeah.
I want to hear more. So Braun Strowman over here.
Oh, Braun, that's who I am.
Freshly off the peds.
And it's cool because this story, this guy's name is Sean. So Braun's going to tell a story about Sean.
Braun.
He's called Sean Chester.
Sean Chester.
And he's this dude. He's like this big bearded dude. And I saw him on a podcast the other day. And he was talking about Las Vegas. And he worked in Las Vegas. And he was one of these guys that would like these really high up people who would come to Vegas for like a good time, and he would work for these like really like high end clubs, and like basically like show the clientele like the best time possible. So there'd be like 4-day parties and stuff, and he knew they would like spend like a hell of a lot of money, so he would be in charge of like showing them like the complete best time possible, like whatever they want. But he was like a proper party head as well, so he would always like almost go real hard with the parties with the guests, and then almost they would just like be gone, and then he'd carry on partying, and it'd be like, oh, if you partied with him afterwards, it, you know what I mean, it would go deep into the after parties and stuff. But yeah, he seemed like a really cool guy, like listening to some of them stories about how crazy that must have been and everything. And he was talking about some of the clubs being the first clubs in Vegas to turn over $1 million in one night, which is like, that's just crazy, isn't it? Like people like going crazy one man up, a
momentous occasion.
Yeah. And he was saying that like in Vegas you would get almost like different gangs of owners. So like you get like the Russians and the Chinese.
I've heard it's a bit dodgy.
Yeah. So there's stuff like that, and like he obviously became very like well known in Vegas. And he said one of these nights he was, they were talking about like a bit like mysteries, like unexplained things, and this is kind of something like that. So he was basically partying in one of the clubs with like the Russian arm of like the
casino scene,
the casino mafia people like in Vegas. And he said they were just like trying to get him wasted, like, you know, there was all sorts of stuff going on and going around and everything. But he was always up for it. He was like very like, you know, it was almost like he couldn't be beaten in his like thing for partying. And they were just going for it. And he said it ended up like they grabbed him and they took him to like a hotel room like after like partying. He said he was just so wasted and everything. And then he ended up like in the hotel room with the leader of this arm of the Russian arm of like the mafia in Vegas. Yeah, and then they were doing this like crazy drug basically where he would like do it with the kind of leader of the mafia. And they would both almost like have this like out of body experience, and they would.
Does he know what it was?
No, so this is the mystery. Right. So this is like he would do it. He said he didn't know what it was. He would do it, and then he would go into this other like world, this other realm, and with the guy that he was speaking to, and they would carry on the conversation that they were having like in the room, but just in this other place, like on the trip, if you know what I mean. And then they would like. Did he say they said it would be for like hours. He said it was like just this like experience of like shared consciousness, like, you know, where they'd be like kind of
this crazy Russian mobster.
Yeah, and he said it would be like crazy, like they would like talk about their childhood and stuff, and like these really deep things that are almost deep in their consciousness, but they would like share them in this thing, and then they would like come out of the trip, and then they would talk about in the room like what they just experienced to like kind of like verify what they validate it with each other, and he said it was crazy, and this went on for like a day or something, that they were just in this room, or a day, or I think he said it was like a day or like 2 days or something, that they were just like doing this and then going off for hours. But he said it was like totally mind-blowing, like he was gone. And and then like afterwards he just like he woke up in this hotel room, and the main like mafia guy was like gone, and there was just this other guy just kind of watching him in the room. And he said it took him like a full week to like recover like from that experience. He just had to lock himself in that hotel room for like a few days, and then when he got back he was just like, what the hell was that? But apparently the Russian like boss told him that it was the Chinese mafia boss that like did the same thing to him. Like, do you know what I mean? It was almost like an initiated into that world of like this secret kind of drug that would like.
So like, the drug was probably from China, or
yeah, man. I don't know. It's just like when he doesn't know what the hell it is. He's just like, he just explains this thing that happened to him. You know, it was just this like random thing that happened.
How did he ingest it?
It was like snorted. Apparently, they would just come back and it was like, let's snuff up your nose, kind of thing, and then it would just like
that reminded me a bit of like you know, like on the Mandalorian.
Oh yeah. When he gets the lizard up his nose and goes on this like crazy
mental
like,
trip.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like I kind of butchered that a little bit because he was obviously very in depth and saying the whole thing that led up to it.
But that's the basic.
It's like this weird like drug technology that we don't know about that certain elites in society like use to initiate each other into these like things. Like it sounded like,
and that's
crazy.
what we went on to talk about as well, isn't it? Like the amount of different crazy stuff there must be out there that no one knows about.
Yeah, especially with like elites of like society and stuff.
Literally,
exactly.
This is like made a light bulb go off in my head of something I heard, like something crazy about the Romans. But I want to ask some more questions about this first. So, like, did he say like where they went on like the astral plane or whatever you want to call it? Did he say like where they went?
From what I remember, he said it was like a room. Like they would go into this like room with each other.
Right.
Like so it was like them as they are, but in a different place. Like not in the hotel room.
So
like
it was almost a bit like the Matrix.
And yeah.
You know when it shows like Morpheus and Neo
that's
like
how I
speaking
imagined
in like
it
a room.
when like I was listening, and it was like, but it was almost this he said there was a connection between them that was beyond speech, and it wasn't just they were talking. It was like they were telepathically communicating with each other and almost locked into each other's memories. So he was saying about all these like childhood experiences that they both had, and they almost like understood each other on a level that was like, you know what I mean, that you couldn't just get through talking. It was through this like, imagine if that happened, it's like rather than just talking like this, it's almost like you're linked in some weird way that's like you're communicating like
Charles Xavier style.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it was like that sounded just so crazy, but like yeah, and he said like after the experience, like the Russians like super just like respected him and like left him alone in the clubs. It was almost like he was worried that he could have got killed by them. Like it was that level of like thing, but it was like he almost like passed the test. Like, oh, you handled that. And,
so
like,
they went on this weird like this place on the astral plane with each other, and then like the Russian guy like ascertained that the guy was not like a threat to their operation or whatever.
Yeah, and just
then,
like almost like a bro. He became a bro
so
rather than
bro
like
now.
Yeah, you're in the
because we went to the Matrix together.
Yeah,
rather than like through tech, through like this crazy drug.
Yeah. Like that's just crazy, innit? Like it sounded mad.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you what, something crazy. I didn't even know this until recently. I'm sure we could find out the name of it. This is quite similar in a way. There was this herb. I don't know if you'd go as far to call it as a drug, that the Romans were obsessed with.
Soma.
I think it began with an S. I'm not sure if it was Soma. But anyway, the Romans thought it was like the best thing like going. So they coveted it over like wine or any other drug that they knew of. They used to use it for like everything. They used to use it in cooking. They used to use it just they were like almost like in love with it. They were obsessed with it. And it was a herb that grew in the Mediterranean, and the Romans loved it and were so obsessed with it that they made it go extinct.
Oh, so it's not actually around anymore.
We don't even know what it is.
There's just like references to it.
It would be like, imagine if cannabis somehow was just made extinct because people farmed it so much without creating new crops that it just ceased to exist. Silphium, is it?
Silphium.
I remember that it began with an S.
Silphium is an unidentified plant that was used as a classical antiquity as a seasoning, perfume, aphrodisiac, and medicine. It was also used as a contraceptive by ancient Greeks and Romans.
Apparently, the Romans like loved it, and then accidentally through their overuse of it, like taking in more than they could grow, they made it go extinct.
Wiped
but to this day, obviously now it's mentioned in all these writings, and it's mentioned how much they loved it. But
that's a shame.
We'll just never know really.
Can't
what
sprinkle that on your pizza.
Yeah, we'll never figure out what the effect was, how good it was, or what we would think of it because it's gone extinct. But it's an amazing thing, isn't it? It's really cool. It just made me think of what you were saying about how it was like this, almost like this top secret thing that we were just this mysterious.
Yeah, like
maybe it even is that, and it secretly is in small pockets, like being kept alive. But
the main usage they used to have for it was as a contraceptive.
Oh right, I bet it didn't actually work as a contraceptive though. I don't know, maybe it did. But do you know what I mean? In those days, a lot of it was like, oh yeah.
Contraceptive. Oops, another baby.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, we'll listen to another track now, but stick with us. We'll be back in the second hour with more factoids. That was Wolf Moon by one of my favourite bands, Typo Negative. Before that, we had the Negroni cocktail jingle, obviously. But before that, we had Width of a Circle by Opeth. You are listening to Pandora's Box on Aspen Waite Radio. Cheers for chilling with us all this evening as we bring you a plethora of interesting facts, subjects, topics, tidbits, and conversations.
Yes.
Insights, yes.
I
Nice
like
one.
the idea that if you listen to our show, then you can always leave with something to tell your friends and go, I found this out by myself.
Yeah,
And take
exactly.
credit.
Yeah,
if you
because that's like, let's face it, information is to be shared and reused and recycled and passed on. And that's what it's all about, baby.
I did that with the story you told me. That you
Did
told
you?
a little while ago. I told all my friends that story, and I was like, listen to this.
Listen to this.
I did give you
It's a
credit.
crazy one. Oh, that's good then.
Just let's give it a little bit of a nod. innit?
Yeah,
Nice to give it a bit of a nod.
Tell them to listen, man.
You were just saying about how apparently Michael Jackson was chemically castrated.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
I can believe it.
Claimed by his doctor.
Yeah, I mean, if it was claimed by his doctor, I mean that's a pretty credible source, isn't it? I'd like to think
Yeah.
that his doctor wouldn't just lie about that. And also, like, what like benefit?
What gains?
You're not going to gain anything from that, are you?
I wonder if it's the same doctor that like gave him too much stuff. Who knows?
Did you know that despite despite being unable to read and write music and all of that, Michael Jackson would
You
write.
couldn't read.
No, he couldn't read music.
Oh.
You know, like notes, like notation and
So
stuff.
he could read, he just couldn't read music.
I get you.
But he wrote every single part of all of his songs. But he would just do it. Apparently, he would have a tape recorder and he would just hum it into a tape recorder. So then he would just hire his musicians and he would just basically be like, do this.
Crazy.
So everything he did. So every single part, whether it was like string arrangements, like whatever, every single part of every single song he created in his head. All the harmonies, everything, recorded into a tape player, and then just gave it to his musicians and was like, "Do this."
That's what really impressed me with "Kiss from a Rose" from Seal. I remember like listening to the breakdown of that, and apparently like that some of the chord progressions in that song. Like I watched this guy like breaking it down musically, and he was explaining some of like the weird chord progressions and movements between some of them, which makes it sound so cool. And he was like, you wouldn't normally find it in a pop song, and some of the harmonies and stuff. And when he talked to Seal about it, it was almost the same thing. Like he writ "Kiss from a Rose" on this little like 4-track tape recorder that he was just singing all of the parts into and making all these weird layers of harmonies, and then it was produced and kind of copied by the musicians and made into this song. But he was like, he doesn't know music, so it was almost that untainted
But
kind
he knows
of
in
like
his head,
creativity,
yes.
how you want something to sound. He was just like unrestrained by like musical notation and stuff, and just created this like crazy weird song. It's cool.
Going along on that sort of like line as well. I remember hearing that Kanye West out in his ranch out in where does he live? I don't know.
Somewhere in California, probably.
He's got a ranch somewhere, not in Wyoming.
Oh yeah,
That's the place. In his ranch out in Wyoming, he basically has around the whole place just microphones set up, constantly recording. Right, and then if he's
So he
ever
can just be like,
if he's ever sat there just like watching something, he can start humming a melody. He can maybe like say a line, and then they've always got it, and he can go like pull back to 2 hours ago when I said this melody, and then they can listen to it and go, oh right, so we'll make it sound like this, and pull it back, and he's constantly got it all recorded in case he just gets a spark.
He
of,
just-
like,
that is good though. I mean, I just do sort of stuff like that just with my phone recorder. It's like if I get a
it's
thing, I'm
handy.
like, oh, I quickly record this on my phone because I know that.
They're like moments lost in time, aren't they, if you don't do that?
If you don't record it, like you think that you'd remember it, but you don't.
Nah.
And the thing is,
Not
like
in the same way.
you could even remember the chords you played,
Or the words.
but you can't remember how you played it, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
That's like the melody. Do you know what I mean?
Man.
If you don't know that,
I get it with lyrics. Like I write a lot of lyrics and raps and stuff, and like that you do it in a way. Like when you're writing it, it's in a way in your head, and then I'll look at lyrics that I writ like a week earlier or a month earlier, and I'm like, that just doesn't make, like, the rhythm doesn't make sense. How was I doing that? But at the time, I was doing it in some way that was perfect. Like,
you knew it sounded really good. I know, and it's so frustrating. And if you lose it, you lose it.
It's
and
gone
that's it.
forever.
That's it. Even if it's like the next day, you won't ever like get it back again. It's very
Do you
frustrating.
ever get sparks of that when you're like sat in bed? Whenever I'm like sat in bed about to go to sleep, I'll be like sat there, and then I might have a thought that I'm like, oh, I need to do this, or I've got this idea for a video, or I've got this idea to do something creatively, and I instantly like, And I just get my notes app up and I'm like typing in my notes, everything that I need to jot down.
Because if you don't catch it, it's gone.
Luckily for me, usually stuff like that doesn't happen while I'm in bed. It's usually like in the evening while I'm doing stuff.
Yeah.
So it's usually pretty handy for me then to get out my phone, and then I just hum in like whatever, like with that Negroni thing. I just hummed in like the singing it in the melody that I thought in my head, and then it was just a matter of just, I showed it to you. You started playing it on the guitar, we built it up. You started doing the keyboards as well. And then it was just a matter of just layering it up. I just did some different vocal parts, some different harmonies over it, and then that was pretty much it done, wasn't it?
Yeah, like man, that's it. It's so funny as well, like recording stuff on your phone, like little videos and that. Like, there's things that, because sometimes I don't even go back to them. I record them and then I forgot I've even recorded them.
Yeah, me too.
And then like a year later, I'll like see this riff or see, and I'm like, that's actually like really cool. But I can't even remember doing it.
I know, it's so good. Or like maybe you will once you've listened to it vaguely. But like if you hadn't found that on your phone, you would have never known
it was just going to been gone. Like
gone. Yeah, as you said, to the sands of time, just completely gone. Yeah, I did that with like there's a little project that's sort of like working on at the moment, and a lot of like the like riffs and stuff for the tracks for the project we're working on are like a couple of them anyway are like that. Are things I've recorded on my phone that I'd forgotten that I'd recorded, and then I was like, ooh, that would be really good for this. You know, because obviously all the project stuff, it's all sort of in that same similar style, obviously, because I'm the one that's
and like acoustic and stuff, like
all that, quite like a similar style, so it kind of suits. It's almost like this weird like folky, epicy, rocky mix.
Folk epic.
Yeah, you know, so it's like I'm like, oh, perfect, this could go there, this could go there, and then it's almost just a matter of arranging it, isn't it?
Like a puzzle,
like a big old puzzle.
Building that puzzle up, baby.
Have you guys heard about the last emperor of China?
Yeah,
I know we're speaking a tiny bit about
China.
Yeah.
Was the Khan take over? I'm guessing.
No. This was during the war.
Yeah, I was going to say it's just like fairly recent. So, but it's quite mental because obviously we think of like the ancient emperors of China and stuff. They were like some of the most powerful people on the earth, along with like the Roman emperors and stuff like that. But they ended up homeless.
What?
So he was born in 1906 and was coronated as the emperor in 1908. Eventually, I believe, throughout his tenure as the emperor, there were various like stuff going on. He was emperor and then he wasn't, and then he was recoronated, all that kind of stuff. But he obviously lived a very lavish lifestyle. Yeah, living in that. What's it called? There's a place in China. It's like the forgotten palace or something.
I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure.
But pretty much lived in like the nicest place in Beijing.
Well, you would, wouldn't you, if you're the emperor?
Exactly. But he went on to be the last emperor, and was put on trial after, I believe, the World War.
World War II.
Yeah, World War II.
Yeah, because obviously.
For like war crimes.
Like Japan, China. I'm just trying to think. I'm definitely not an expert on the Chinese sort of theatre during the war, but I know that the World War II that lasted the longest for the Chinese, I believe.
I'm so dumb. I didn't even realise China were involved. I knew Japan were, but I didn't realise China were.
They got nuked, didn't they?
So Japan
did, yeah.
Yeah, Japan got nuked.
Not China.
Oh, well, it was with the fall of Japan.
Yeah, so
that was why.
So it was Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan that got nuked. China didn't get nuked, but the war between Japan and China started long before the war between Germany and the rest of Europe. So as I said, by Britain's standards, I'm like 99% sure this is right. The war lasted from 1938, I believe, to 1945. But for China, it was something like 1933 until 1945 or something like that. The Japanese, it's funny because the Japanese were one of those people that have done a real U-turn. Nowadays, I think they're one of the most enlightened countries on the planet. Very decent people. Would never, would you ever be worried about hearing about Japan like invading anybody nowadays? No. You just know about them like making amazing phones and televisions and stuff. Like, all these amazing things that...
Crazy work ethic.
Yeah, all these things that you think of, like, they've got great technology, great pioneers. They're not a very militaristic country. They're very open in terms of their trade, got good negotiations with lots of countries.
Do you reckon that was directly because of Hiroshima?
Because of the war, definitely. Yeah. Obviously, Hiroshima was a big part of it, but as a whole, because of the way that the World War II happened and the way it ended and all sorts of stuff like that, I think they realised that their old way of life, that samurai culture, was the ghost of the last emperor of Russia just was like, do you not talk about bad the samurai? But I think they realised that samurai way of life, that they were very much still living. That's why they did things like kamikazes. You know, if like they would run out of, you know, if Japanese pilots ran out of ammunition,
would rather just fly into the target. Yeah,
like if a British pilot or a German pilot or an American pilot
probably
ran out of ammo, they'd go back,
Mm.
restock. Japanese pirate, no. Samurai culture, you would just fly your plane into the enemy, even though you know it's going to kill you, and you know it's going to be basically a waste of resources as well, essentially, because then that's like another plane that's going to have to be manufactured. But that's how seriously they took that samurai mindset. But I think it's like that like die rather than surrender mindset is what obviously led in a way to the Hiroshima and Nagasaki atomic bombs dropping, because they were told, you know, if you don't surrender, we will drop these, and they were just like, no. And then as a result, all of those people died, and then it was like, and then by the time 2 atomic bombs have gone off in your country, you're like, oh well, now whether you like it or not, it's you have to really, because too many innocent people are dying. You know, it's always, let's face it, it was like,
and that
civilians.
guy that we talked about on the pod as well, the one who refused to
that Japanese guy that just hid in the forest.
Yeah, and it was like
the forest of
40
Cambodia
years or 50 years or something stupid.
Oh, yeah, it was like 40 years,
crazy long time.
Oh, maybe it was even 50 years. Yeah, something like that. It might have even been like the 90s or something. But the Japanese did some pretty awful things to the Chinese during the war. Really bad things to the Chinese. But anyway, that's leading back into Bullwinkle telling us this story of the last emperor of China.
So I believe it's pronounced Pooey.
Pooey.
Maybe.
Pooey.
P-U-Y-I.
Pooey.
Yeah. So he was the emperor of the Qing dynasty, and after the fall of Japan, Pooey fled the capital and was eventually captured by the Soviets. He was extradited to the People's Republic of China, and after it was established in 1949, basically, long story short, he was sentenced to be re-educated for 10 years. So at this point, apparently...
That sounds a bit like chilling. But do you know what I mean? It almost sounds a bit like... Re-educated.
Apparently at this point, he didn't even know how to like tie his shoes or anything like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Also, we needed educating them.
I know that if you were like
life.
I know that if you were like the emperor of somewhere like China, you basically just never had to do anything. Like everyone would always do stuff for each other. And without branching off too much, I'll just tell you guys really quickly this story. I think that there was an empress of China once, and there's like a rule. I don't know if it was still during this guy's reign, like by the time that the emperors and stuff were like basically destroyed, but where you couldn't physically touch an emperor or empress, to the point where once an empress drowned, even though loads of her people were around her, because she fell into the water, and because if you touched the emperor or empress, you would literally get killed. Yeah. So they were so scared of death. Even though that they could have just pulled her out, they were so worried. They were like, if we save her, we might get killed. So her and her child drowned, and she was like struggling, like trying to like help me, and they were like, no. And it's not even like they didn't want to. It's just that they knew that like if they touched her, they didn't want her to suddenly then afterwards
crazy.
be like...
That's like... Surely you should take a direct order of your emperor, whatever that is. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I think, she was struggling, and I don't know if she was actually saying something, but they thought that the Imperial Guard would then be like, you touched the emperor, you will now die. Yeah. So they were like...
That's crazy.
It was just almost like, is it worth the gamble for you and your kids?
Oh, man.
But doesn't that just go to show how it shoots you in the foot?
Yeah, just these stupid things, like rules and stuff, like...
It's all good in having this rule, like, you can never touch me under pain of death. Oh, and then the next thing like, you're in a situation like that, or you're hanging from a cliff, and then it'd be easy for one of us to be like, hey, man, and pull you up. But then because they're like, oh, nah, sorry, I'm not taking that chance. I got people at home that need me. And then it's like, oh, damn. See you later then.
Bye-bye.
Shoot yourself in the foot. But yeah. That's it. Sorry.
No. So basically, he was re-educated in prison for about 10 years until he was pardoned, and apparently his time in prison greatly changed him. After he was pardoned, the last monarch was then appointed as a gardener and lived his life as an ordinary citizen until he passed away in 1967. So he literally just became like an ordinary person after this like journey of his whole childhood being the emperor of like one of the biggest countries in the world.
Yeah.
And then apparently like he even went back and like visited the place that he grew up in Beijing, but this time he went as like a tourist and was like taking photos of it and being like, wow, look. Which is mental to think that he was like born there and he ruled this country and now he's just like a gardener. What a change in lifestyle.
Let's think all those Chinese dynasties are like some of the farthest back. As I said, think that like all those Chinese emperors back like during the Ming dynasty and stuff, back when like the Roman Empire, the Roman Empire were like the dons of Europe. You know, they were like heads of sort of Asia back in those days. So it's mad to think that, you know, all of that lineage, and then suddenly you're just like this little pauper. You know, this little gardener.
Yeah, I think that's the first time I've ever heard something like that with like someone who is like you hear like say if there's like two, like in Vikings and stuff, if like there's two you know, different areas fighting and then one will become king of the other and they'll like kill the other king or something. But like for someone to just become a complete like normal citizen or a pauper.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah.
Normally you hear there's quite like a bang of an ending. Isn't
it?
Like,
it's like you'll get beheaded or like,
put on
you know,
a pike paraded around the city.
So
just be a gardener.
Not just become a gardener.
You're
sentenced to become a gardener.
That's definitely better.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, way better.
I think his like tenure as the emperor was real like weird as well though. So he became emperor at the age of 2 years and 10 months old, and he was only emperor for like 4 years at that point until he was then not emperor anymore. Then there was a brief restoration in 1917, just trying to find out when that ended now, but I can't see anywhere. Then basically just pretty much he was on and off emperor for this whole time, which is once again just mental when you consider like what their lives would have been in the past. Like being emperor of China in the past was like, do you get much higher than that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Crazy stuff.
100%, man. I've got I've literally, because I thought they would have been really fun to do the last couple of weeks, I've got like so many quickfire facts
on the backlog.
Oh, nice.
This week. So if you want literally for like the last sort of 15 to 17 minutes today, I will literally just go through like these
bang fact after fact,
just like fact after fact. So number one, throughout history during wartime,
we're in the dark
ambience, some armies used to wipe poo.
We've lost the cameras a sec, man.
Have we?
Yeah.
Oh, that's all right. It's all right. We're just gonna have to go cameraless for a second. But I'll tell you what. We'll go to these next tracks.
We'll come back with the quickfire facts.
We'll come back after these tracks. We'll come back with the quickfire facts while we try and sort out these technical difficulties for y'all, so that you can take in our visages on the tubes. This track is for both Bullwinkle, because he looks like Justin Timberlake, and for Drew, because he really likes this track. This is Like I Love You. You are listening to Pandora's Box on Aspen Waite Radio. We got about 15 minutes left of the show. We are going to bring you Quickfire Facts. It's time for Quickfire Facts. So, first off, did you know throughout history during wartime, armies would often wipe poo on their spears and weapons so that when they stabbed and slashed their enemies, they would have a lesser chance of survival due to the ensuing infection.
Oh, that's savage, isn't it?
So one thing,
it's like poison dart, but poison shark.
Yeah,
like
nice
chemical...
one. I like it.
Is that not like chemical warfare?
I don't know if that would class as chemical warfare. It's just like a poison blade, isn't it?
No, I think chemical warfare is probably a bit more savage, isn't it? It's just like
it has to be like gassing
someone and you're.
I wouldn't want to be stabbed with poo.
No,
it wouldn't be good, would it?
Either way, yeah.
This I like this next fact. This But I guess it's like, if you want to just be like as savage as possible, because I suppose if you stabbed someone through the leg with like a spear, there's a good chance they'd survive. But then if you stabbed them through the leg with a Pooey spear, and all of that it got in, and you got like a gangrenous leg, you would so easily die of infection. This next one's pretty hilarious. Back during the era of the Soviet Union, the KGB tried to blackmail the Indonesian president Ahmed Sukarno with videotapes of the president having sex with Russian women that were disguised as flight attendants. Sukarno didn't only not back down from the blackmail, he was actually pleased and even asked for more copies of the video to show his friends back home in Indonesia.
What a G!
Yeah, it's like,
what a G! He's like, I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that.
You have to give in to our blackmail, or we will show these videos of you having sex with these women. He's just like, what? These videos are cool.
I showed them a good time, man.
Yeah.
Send me more copies. You release it wherever you like.
What a way to flip the script.
Yeah.
I like that.
During the Cold War, the CIA considered dropping enormous amounts of condoms, just labelled small to medium, over the Soviet Union to demoralise the Soviet male population. Although seriously considered, this plan was never carried out.
What a master plan.
Yeah.
How did you win the war?
That's so funny, isn't it? James Sligo Jameson, who was the heir to the Irish whiskey manufacturer Jameson's, the most famous whiskey company in the world, bought an 11-year-old girl and offered her to cannibals so that he could document and sketch how she was cooked and eaten alive.
No.
Yeah.
When was this?
There's sources for that. I don't know when it was, but I mean, there's sources.
How old
for
is Jameson? Because the heir to
What,
Jameson, the whiskey is it like 18 something, or
I don't
like
know.
when it was being made?
I mean, I know enough about history that I could very much believe that during, say, the Victorian times, that you could have gone to some weird little island, or some part of the Amazon, like when we were talking about that, Rockefeller, Michael Rockefeller, who got eaten by the cannibals. I can very much believe that you could probably do that, and obviously nowadays it would be like, mass condemnation. But you got to bear in mind, this is like back in these days. Word would only get around by like newspaper.
Yeah,
you could probably just pay people off to keep it quiet and stuff.
Yeah, and like the more thing I'm thinking about is the child, like getting an 11-year-old child, like, you know what I mean, and like taking them to do that. Like you probably couldn't. There's only up to a certain time where you could get away with something like that. Like that's crazy.
So,
I reckon it must still happen.
Like child trafficking and everything.
Exactly. Like, and remember that truth is always stranger than fiction, which is a bit like this next fact, which like to me almost seems like unbelievable, because I think like how could you as the bloke have a sexual relationship with somebody that was actually a bloke but was pretending to be a woman for like years and not ever realise they were a bloke because of obvious reasons. But yeah, so basically, this next fact. Shi Paipu was a Chinese opera singer and a spy for China who obtained secrets from a French embassy worker for 20 years by masquerading as a woman and having sexual affairs with this man for 20 years. The man, Shi Paipu, even took a child to pretend that it was theirs, right? So they've been having sexual intercourse for up to 2 decades, and this guy, this French embassy worker, believed that it was a woman for 20 years. Now, either they'd had ridiculous surgery to fully do that, but there's no mention of that, or they were like always doing it completely with the lights off, and somehow, he was putting it in the other hole.
He could feel what's going in,
and he never felt the schlong.
Yeah.
But surely you would feel that flapping about.
Oh, that's weird.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless you like tied it up or something.
Like tying your hair up. Tie it up out the way. But then imagine like with your balls and that.
Have you seen those kung fu people that can actually like and like pull their balls up into their body? Have you never seen that? Oh,
I think I've heard like a.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's real.
Yeah.
Is it real?
No, yeah. They do it. They go and they like pull their balls up into their body.
Surely
and it's
that's
a protect.
not.
Seriously, and
really?
it's a protective thing. And then they'll get people to kick them like where that
and you
is.
could actually like feel like a ballless skin flap.
It would go up into their
Scrotum,
bodies.
that's the one I was
It would
looking
go up into their bodies, and then there'd
What,
be
the scrotum
nothing,
as well?
Yeah. All of it would go up, and they could
So it'd
pull
just be
it
a
up
shaft?
there, and then they could get kicked in the private parts, and it wouldn't hurt. And like these kung fu masters, that was something that they learned as part of that. We'll have to get a video of that.
Saves money on buying a cup, doesn't it?
I remember I was surprised. That blew my mind when I saw that. I was like, whoa.
You have to inhale pretty hard.
Yeah, saves you having to spend money on a jockstrap, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So that's pretty good. Yeah. Let's see. President Lyndon B. Johnson often peed in public, even during his presidential reign. One time, while he was weeing outside, a gust of wind blew his urine onto the leg of one of his Secret Service agents. When the agent informed him he was being peed on, President Johnson simply replied, "I know. That's my prerogative."
Who was Johnson then? Is he an American?
Lyndon
president?
B. Johnson, yeah.
Oh, okay,
He's an
American.
American.
I've
American, yeah.
heard lots of similar stories from that same president.
Yeah.
Notorious for it.
Yeah. Next fact. Ilya Ivanov was a Soviet biologist who specialized in the field of artificial insemination, with the result of trying to interbreed animals for hybridization. He is famous for his controversial attempts to create a human-ape hybrid, and he inseminated 3 separate female chimpanzees with male human sperm, but with apparently no success.
Good.
Although, if you do really want to go really off the deep end, there are some people, like I'm pretty sure Alex Jones. I think Alex Jones has said that there are some top government secret projects where they have successfully bred weird ape-human hybrids.
He seems mental, but he's blown the lid off like a couple of things, hasn't he, Alex Jones?
With Alex Jones, I do always think it's like 7 out of 10 things he says are like probably rubbish, but those 3 out of 10 things that actually turn out to be true are like, whoa.
Well, he was the one who like blew the lid on Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, he snuck into Bohemian Grove, the one with the big owl, and it was like,
and he filmed it.
Yeah.
And there's those like celebrities and stuff like doing this weird like ritual to this owl.
God.
Yeah, he is. I like
Crazy.
Alex Jones. I think like because
He's mental.
don't get me wrong, he's mad as a box of frogs, but I always almost see it in like a nice way. Like he's not. I don't think he's really a danger to anyone.
No.
Or anything. Maybe
he's very passionate.
Yeah. I almost see him as like quite like a lovable character. Do you know what I mean? I think like. Yeah, he'd probably be aggressive to you if he thought that you were like up to like something really untoward. But I think towards like, even then, I don't think it's not like he'd like go and shoot you. I don't think he's like dangerous in that way.
No.
He'd try and expose you.
His theories are dangerous.
Yeah. He'd be like, and I think he has upset people with some of his theories that have turned out not to be true. Like I think he thought there was
something
a
with the
school.
Columbine.
Yeah, was it? I don't. Yeah, was it the Columbine?
Yeah,
he thought that was like a hoax.
Or a false flag or something.
But it really upset the families of the kids that died. They're obviously, because they were like, no, our kids are dead. Like this isn't like a
this
cover.
Is more than a theory.
Yeah. And I think he was apologetic towards that. I think he did come and apologise towards that. But I think sometimes, you've just got to watch what you say. I mean, you're like, next one's hilarious. Talking about like Dons earlier on with the Indonesian president. There was a Tibetan monk called Drupa Kunli, and lived in the 15th century, and he was a poet who was known for his crazy methods of enlightening people. Women sought his blessing through the art of sex, which earned him the nickname the Saint of 5,000 Women, and his penis was referred to as the Thunderbolt of Flaming Wisdom. Talk about the coolest guy in history. I mean, the fact that your penis
I'm gonna take you to heaven.
Like, imagine just literally all of these like thousands of women in Tibet like being like, I need to search out the Thunderbolt of Flaming Wisdom. And they're just talking about his penis. That is hilarious. Fair shout to that guy.
The Willy of Wisdom.
Drukpa Kunli, you are a friend of the pod. You're a friend of the pod.
You're a friend of the pod.
This is a bit controversial. Members of Mother Teresa's order would secretly baptize dying patients of other religions. Patients were asked if they wanted a ticket to heaven, and while pretending to cool the patient's forehead, words were quietly recited, and a ceremony was performed to turn them Christian.
Whoa!
Even though they didn't want it. That's pretty bad, really, isn't it?
That allegedly she wasn't actually that nice of a person.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. I've heard that. Yeah. We should talk about that more on the pod in the future.
Do a bit of research.
Yeah, she's a very, very controversial figure, actually. Let's get some more stuff.
Some more quickfire facts.
Quickfire facts. When Roman Emperor Nero's wife died, he was absolutely heartbroken. And then one day, while walking through the streets, he found a small boy who he thought looked startlingly like her. So he had the poor boy's testicles removed, and then from that point on had him appear in public as his wife. That is disturbing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why Emperor Nero is considered one of the craziest and worst Roman emperors of all time. He was mad as a box of frogs.
I don't like this Nero character.
No. Yeah, I know. Crazy, innit? Crazy. John Kellogg, who was the inventor of cornflakes and the founder of the Kellogg Company, worked tirelessly to reform masturbators by wrapping their genitals in sharp wire to prevent arousal, burning their genitals with acid to desensitize them, and circumcising small boys without anaesthetic, among other things. We live in a weird world, don't we?
Oh man, that's spoiled my
There's
day.
That's the guy who makes your cereal.
Yeah, so think about that next time you're having a bowl of Kellogg's cornflakes.
I was going to say something else then.
Yeah. Think about that next time you're playing with your privates. But I think we talked about this last week, but the Roman Catholic Church used to hire what were known as castrati. These were young male vocalists who had been castrated before their puberty. This allowed them to sing soprano, mezzo-soprano, or contralto well into their 40s. The practice started in the mid-1500s and reached its height in 1730 and went on straight up until 1903. The last castrati died officially in 1922, although there are some reports that every now and again it still does happen. Like
allegedly.
Like
Michael Jackson.
Exactly.
Well, now it can be chemically done as well. I can imagine that goes under wraps quite a lot.
Yeah. In 1933, Joseph Stalin deported over 6,000 people to the obscure island in Siberia that he considered unfit. Around 4,000 of these people died, mainly from cannibalism, including a pretty girl who, after being put on the island, was tied to a tree by the others and had her breasts cut off and eaten by the starving inhabitants.
Oh,
we live in a weird world, don't we?
That sounds like what is it? Children of the
Corn.
Children of the Corn.
Yeah, very much like that. This is a really cool mystery, and I'm surprised I've never heard this anywhere. This next one. In 1876, Sigmund Freud dissected over 400 eels, frantically searching for their testicles. Right, because nobody knew how eels mated. Right, he couldn't find what he was looking for, and to this very day, the mating habits of eels remains a complete scientific mystery.
Whoa.
Nobody knows how they reproduce. Really weird, isn't it? Really weird.
That's mental.
Yeah. Really strange, isn't it?
Put here somewhere.
Yeah, it's really strange, isn't it?
Yeah, you would have thought we'd just know about that now.
Yeah, you would, wouldn't you? Yeah. Very, very strange, guys. Very, very
Crazy.
strange. Right, let's get some more facts for you. Oh, this is a bit of a mental one. During the Iraq-Iran war in 1984, Iraqi forces had laid hundreds of exposed electrical wires in the Majnoon marshes, which they knew the Iranians had to cross. These wires were all snaked together and connected to a large electrical generator. When Iran attempted to cross the marsh with boats, Iraq used just enough concentrated artillery to force the Iranian soldiers out of their boats to walk through the marshlands. As soon as this happened, the Iraqis fired up the generators and electrocuted thousands of Iranian soldiers in an instant. The Iraqis then sent in a road building detail, collected all of the Iranian dead, stacked their bodies 5 corpses high and 5 across, covered them with lime, and then a bunch of sand. They used the Iranian dead to build a road for their trucks to cross the marshlands. So they made a road out of all the dead bodies.
That's crazy.
Dark, man, isn't it? So dark, so dark. And with that, you know, I thought I was going to be able to reel off loads. I've got something. Yeah. I've got loads more for next week. I've literally got like about 30 more for next week. But
I'm looking forward to that already.
We've come to the end of the pod. We hope you've enjoyed this week's Pandora's Box. Remember to go on Spotify and YouTube and everywhere and Instagram, etc. Give us a follow if you haven't already. We appreciate every single one of y'all's. We'll see you next week. And until then, have a great time, y'all. Going to leave you with a track now. This is Eyes Behind the Wall by